So to those of you who don't know us, my name is Vicki Thomas and Joyce Cohen, Wave Joyce. We are the co-founders of My Future Purpose. And what we do is we're a membership-based organization. We help individuals as well as organizations discover their purpose. And we have identified, if you are in search of purpose, the 6 elements that people usually fit into if they're on the journey and pathway to purpose. We meet with these meetings bi-weekly, and we have chosen a word, and the word becomes a workshop. So the word today is curiosity. And with that, you have to be curious to become a YouTube sensation and daytime Emmy winner for his series, Could You Survive the Movies? That has been viewed by over 130 million times and explores the magic and science of cinema. Jake writes, hosts, produces, directs, and edits his videos to ensure each episode conveys authenticity, consistency, and excitement. His partner channels, Vsauce1 and Vsauce2, are run by Michael Stevens and Kevin Lieber. The network of Vsauce channels are the most popular science and education channels on YouTube, with over 27 million subscribers and 3.5 billion views collectively. That's V with a billion. So with that, I'm going to introduce the curious person, Jake Roper, and start out by asking Jake, how in the world did you come up with the concept of Can You Survive the Movies?
Well, hi. Hello.
Reba, go to speaker two.
Yeah, Jake, it got muted, sorry.
Unacceptable. No. Well, hi. This is actually good. I got to rehearse it, now I get to do it live. Hello. First and foremost, thank you everyone for being a part of this workshop and this conversation. I very much appreciate you giving us some of your time today. And I'm very fortunate for Vicki and Joyce for inviting me to be here. And actually, just as I'll get to your question in a second, Vicki, I apologize. But just so everyone's aware, because I think this is a very curious circumstance of how we all know each other, and also shout out to my mom, is Vicki and Joyce are friends with my mother. And I became close with Vicki and Joyce after my mother's recent passing. And they've been incredibly helpful. And when this came up to me and they brought up My Future Purpose, I thought, what a wonderful thing, and what a wonderful thing to share and be a part of. So that is one of the reasons why we're all here together. So thank you for that. To answer your question, when it comes to Could You Survive the Movies, well, it came from, and I'm sure we'll dig into this a lot, so I'm going to be a little bit repetitive. In advance, I apologize, is I've always enjoyed filmmaking. I've always enjoyed science. And I wanted to find a way where I could marry the two to explore, to me, what were really curious, interesting questions, right? And curiosity can be traded with I'm interested, or I am excited, or I am just thoughtful, is how I think about curiosity. So to me, it was I had all these questions, these interesting, to me, questions about why do things operate the way that they do in movies? And could that actually be possible? And more importantly, could I use those lessons from things that we grew up with, that we resonate with, and that is film, to explore scientific concepts? And the term that I always like to use is accidental learning. Or maybe you came because you really liked Home Alone, and you wanted to learn about that, and now you understand about momentum and force and just physics in general and the transfer of heat. And you weren't expecting that, but now that you have it, you kind of like it. You're like, that was really fun. What a nice, digestible way to explore a curious topic. So that's kind of the embryo of the idea of what was Could You Survive the Movies? And then I was fortunate in finding people who wanted to allow me to keep making it at a much grander scale. And so we made 2 seasons of it, always exploring interesting topics in a really fun, exciting way, I thought. And here we are. And actually, Vicki, do we have a clip to throw to?
We do.
Reba, is there a clip we can show?
We do. Here we go.
We don't have sound.
So sorry.
I can do live sound for you. and just recreate it.
We're gonna just I'm gonna go back to the
That's all right.
share here.
So just to set up the clip, it is the trailer for season 2 of Could You Survive the Movies, which you haven't seen yet. Highly recommend. I'm incredibly biased. Smash that like button. Okay. Was that
Okay,
enough?
here we
Did I
go.
buy time, Reba? Okay.
Yes.
I have two loves in my life, science and movies. So I decided to put myself in some of my favorite films to find out if you could survive what you see on screen. What? Could you survive?
Let's make me hypothermic. I can't feel my hands anymore. Come get some!
Wow, that's explosive.
Yeah. So that's my show, and I enjoy it.
Now, tell us about the movie Top Gun. I mean, Tom Cruise just arrived on a helicopter, which he did not pilot, but he landed.
Mhm.
And, you know, talking about, now, tell us how you did, because everybody should have the Vsauce, Can You Survive Top Gun? Tell us how you created that, your experience flying at with the Blue Angels, and just share a little bit about that.
Certainly. So that one came from, well, there's a few things. And doing a show like this, one, there's, you know, we always like to think that, oh, as the creator, you get to choose everything. A lot of it also is like, what things could we really emphasize and do well? So part of the process with the second season was, you know, we had success with the first. And so we kind of started reaching out to movie studios. And I was like, here's the movies I would like to make. So I went to Paramount. I was like, I'd really like to do Top Gun and A Quiet Place. Do you have any interest? And Top Gun really resonated with them, obviously, because the new one, which, funny enough, was supposed to come out, well, multiple times, but it was supposed to come out July 4th, 2021, which is why our video came out July 1st, 2021. And then, you know, they moved it because they don't care about the little guy. But that was one that I always wanted to do because I grew up with Top Gun. I've always loved the film. And I thought that we could do a really fun exploration of just how do planes work? What is lift? What is drag? What is G-force? Like that just seemed like a really fun exploration for me. And as we started exploring it, and this is what happens a lot, it's a thing that I like to call creative problem solving, which is you might have one idea in your head, or if you're a creator or an artist, and I'll use my own perspective, when I go to set and I'm going to film something, something always happens that is wrong, that wasn't the intent. So you have to creatively problem solve to figure out how you work through it while still telling a story and still using the time that you have to do it. So I say this for Top Gun because it kept changing. You know, I originally wrote the script, sent it to Paramount to be like, hey, do you think you give us some assets to help us? Because we're a relatively low budget show. And they loved it and were like, cool, cool, cool. What if we gave you Jay Ellis, who's one of the stars of the movie and also the director of the film? I went, that's awesome. Let me just rewrite the script now to fit them into it. So then I rewrote it to fit them into it, and I had to do it like super quick. And then they said, oh, we talked to the Department of Defense because we worked with them on Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. They think they could give you access to an aircraft carrier and also the Blue Angels. You could actually fly with them and experience G-force. I said, that's awesome. Let me rewrite the script. So then I rewrote it to fit them in it. And it was literally the day before we filmed the meat and potatoes parts. I had just finished the latest version of the script, knowing that we now had all these things. And then we had to film it. And then we didn't, but it was still, okay, so also we're dealing with COVID, right? Like understandably so, the US Navy was kind of like, do we want some stranger coming to our military base during a pandemic where everyone's literally in these tiny barracks. So there was a lot of back and forth if it was going to actually happen. And so all this stuff with me and the Blue Angels, going to Pensacola, and they were super nice. I love them. Experiencing flying with pilots, being in a plane, hitting 7.5 Gs, happened a month and a half after we had filmed the episode, because we weren't sure if we were actually going to get it. So I also had filmed a whole bunch of sequences just in case we didn't get to fly with the Blue Angels, just in case. But luckily we did. It was like the end of March we filmed with them, and then we had the episode delivered to the network 2 weeks later. So it was a lot of rushing to get it done, but it all just worked out. But you always have to plan for inconsistencies or, again, creative problem solving.
What was your most watched Vsauce? How Can You Survive the Movies?
Currently the most viewed episode is Could You Survive Men in Black? Is the best one. That one has, I think, about 35 million views. And then Jurassic Park is in a close, no, actually, funny enough, Jumanji, which stars, as Vicky and Joyce know, stars my mother, because she wouldn't let anyone not know that she was in that episode. That is the second most viewed, is the Jumanji episode. And then in a close third is Jurassic Park.
Okay. And now I just want to share a story about my new neighbor that's going to move in across the street. And I've not met her. Kind of talking, what do you do? What do you do? And she's a science teacher. And so I told her about Jake. And she goes, oh, does he have dark hair and kind of a earring up here? And I said, yeah. She said, I use all his videos in my science class. So tell me about how schools, and do you know how many schools use your videos in their science class?
Recording in progress.
I do not know the exact number, but I mean, just to set the groundwork here. I'm not a teacher, nor do I pretend to be one. I think teachers are heroes, and I do not have the temperament or the ability to do what a teacher does. But I'm very happy that they think content that we make appropriate to be part of or adjacent to curriculum. I mean, anecdotally, we do get lots of screenshots from people that are like, oh, we got to watch a Vsauce video in class. And they send photos, and that's always very exciting for us. But I'm just so honored that we get to be in a classroom, that teachers deem the content that we make worthy enough to be something that they use as a teaching tool. It's just very nice.
So you do all these formulas. So example, in Top Gun, you did all these formulas to prove them or to disprove them, or to say that Top Gun, where do you get that expertise?
Well, as a genius, Vicky, no, we rely on, it's a lot of research, right? Like we do in a traditional Vsauce video, it's just a heck of a lot of research, reading, researching, talking with experts, because I'm not a scientist, but we do have access to them. So just picking their brain and physicists and figuring out what works. When it comes to a show like Could You Survive, because we have more resources, we're in a position where we actually get to test, right? So we have our hypothesis, if this, then that, and then we actually get to test it before we just film it. So I can predict what I think will happen, but then we test it and we make sure that what we thought would happen does happen. It matches our conclusion, or it doesn't match our conclusion, in which case it's still worth talking about and worth filming, because it's surprising. Right? Curiosity comes in many ways, be it positive or negative. But even if it's negative, that's just something that you get to use to grow from. So I like capturing all of that, because that's what the scientific method is. It's success, but a lot of failure. And then figuring out from that failure how you find success.
So you have teachers that show your stuff on science. So, fact check. In other words, who fact checks your formulas that you come up with that are part of your Vsauce Can You Survive the Movie examples?
Yeah, so traditionally how it would work on our more regular episodes is that, we research everything and then we do fact check it with peers. For Could You Survive Movies, I'll research things and then we have a dedicated science producer, which is a very nice thing to have. I'm very fortunate, who then double checks my work. And that science producer also has an engineer and a physicist, and depending on the topic, we might even have like, a biology expert or or a virus expert who then double checks to make sure that what we're saying is factual. Because at the end of the day, we have to be right. We can't say things that are incorrect because we're an educational program. So everything is very well fact checked before we even film a thing.
What's the average length of a Vsauce feature? Like, can you survive the movies? Do they have a formula like 10 minutes, 15? I see Top Gun is 18 minutes.
Yeah, we grew. So the very first episode, Mad Max, was 30 minutes, and that was cut down from 45. It was a much longer episode, but the network thought it was too long. One day maybe we'll release a director's cut. YouTube, if you're not watching this, because why would you? But hey, let's do it. Then for the first season, we dropped down to like around 15 minutes, and then we got them up to around 18 to 20 minutes for season 2. But at the end of the day, the thing that and this is the advice that I give other creators, especially on YouTube, because one question I always get asked is, how long should a video be? And it should be as long as it takes you to tell a story. Like, don't inflate just because you think a longer runtime is going to be better, or don't decrease because you think a shorter runtime is going to be better. If it takes 10 minutes to tell a story, it takes a minute. If it takes 20 minutes, then it takes 20 minutes, right? Your narrative, the structure that you're trying to build dictates the length.
You interject humor in your curious videos. And did you always say that, or is that just part of your personality?
Wow. Because I know to, like, I guess, talk positively about myself. It's weird. I think it's part of my personality. And I think that's also the way that I found, right? Because we're talking about curiosity. The thing I love is, how do other people express information? How do my teachers express information? I was very curious about that. Because every experience that you have in life should be, at least the way that I see it, should be something that you can digest and then use. Doesn't mean it has to be in your face that you use it, but you use it in your craft, in your creative endeavors. So I say all that because in school, I was able to identify which teachers resonated the best with me and the way that they would speak, the way that they would present information, and the way they would do it by making it feel like a conversation, like we're friends. That's how I learned best. And so that is how I adapted to then express information, is by making it feel like we're on a journey together, but not just on a journey. We're having fun, because it should be fun. It doesn't have to be a slog, just reading a bunch of jargon, right? Like not no one, I shouldn't say that, but people just don't go to the grocery store and check out and be like, okay, I'm going to get my popular mechanics and also this science journal and just read these really, really long articles about science. Some people do, but is there a way that you could make it more approachable, more understandable? And I think, just to get to the heart of the question, I think humor helps with that. It makes you feel calmer and more approachable if you can imbue humor into a topic.
Now, you're a YouTube sensation. Do you have an agreement with YouTube? Do you have how do you have a contract or agreement? How does that work?
I wish. Give me that sweet Google money, YouTube. No, I mean, just like I assume many people on this call, you can just create a YouTube channel. Anyone can do it. There are certain metrics that you have to hit in terms of being able to monetize and actually get that ad money. But anyone can create a YouTube channel and anyone can upload. And I think that's the beauty of YouTube. That's what drew me to YouTube. Just to expand on this question a bit, is I worked in television and, advertising and music videos. I did all that stuff. But I loved YouTube because I got to do whatever I wanted. There wasn't a brand, or there wasn't a creative director or a copywriter or an art director telling me what to do. I got to just do it because it was free. I could just make a channel, upload the things that I liked. And I was fortunate enough in finding other people that were like-minded, that were interested in the same things I was talking about.
So you have, in terms of coming up in the fall, so it's your Vsauce channel that has attracted all these followers. And where did the followers come from? They just, all of them, like, gravitated to you because they're of like-minded? Is that it?
Let's ask Owen. I don't know. Like, I think it depends on the people, right? I think some people find it organically. Obviously, Vsauce is a rather large network, so maybe if you saw a Vsauce1 video, you'll go explore, like, oh, there's other ones, cool. But what I try to do, one thing we did when we launched Vsauce3 in September of 2012 is we made a conscious effort to not promote it through the other channels. We wanted to see if we could build another Vsauce channel a bit organically, which, was scary for me because I'm like, oh, shoot. So like Vsauce1 and Vsauce2 aren't going to promote my new channel. Okay. But it was fine, because that's also one of the nice things about what Vsauce3 focuses on is pop culture, be it video games, comic books, movies, whatever. It's things that people are searching and talking about. So how I was able to find traction early on was I just talked about topics that were in the cultural zeitgeist, and then blogs and stuff would post it. And YouTube was also, we don't have to go too deep into this. YouTube was different at the time. The way that YouTube would surface things, because we all probably, not all, but a lot of us remember the heyday of YouTube. When you would go to youtube.com, it would like have this whole page of certain things and different topics, like most watched or blah, blah, blah. And that's how videos would get surfaced. And if your video hit the front page of YouTube, that was like guaranteed million views. And you were so excited. And it was driven by the way that YouTube decided if it should feature on the front page was how many blogs or how many people off platform are embedding and clicking on it. So if, I had a video that was on Reddit and on Gizmodo, it would then get on the front page of YouTube, which a whole bunch of people would then see. And that's what really helped accelerate my growth. And it wasn't that we had Vsauce1 and 2 promoting me. We wanted to see if we could build a channel without that. And I think, we were successful in doing it.
So you're not dancing for your own enjoyment here. How do you get compensated?
I sell so many of my organs. I have nothing left. My kidney is just a sponge that I found at the grocery store. So yeah, you do AdSense is the main way. So AdSense would be, when you watch a YouTube video, there's generally an ad that plays before the video, or now there'll be ads that play during the video or after the video, and then there'll be a little banner that pops up. You get a percentage. So I think it's like a 55-45 split. You get a percentage of that ad revenue. The more views you get, in theory, the greater that ad revenue will be. So that's one way to do it. A thing that a lot of creators do now is brand deals. So there'll be an integration in the video where they'll say, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Find out about them later. And then we continue the video at the end and go, hey, go to Skillshare.com, sign up this link, blah, 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 you get a discount. And that is a much better return on investment than AdSense because it's kind of guaranteed. You know how much money you're going to make, and you know how much then you can use to reinvest into your channel to make more content. But those are the two main ways. And there's things like Patreon now, where that's crowdfunding almost, where if you have an audience, be like, hey, support me on Patreon and pay X dollars every month. So there's lots of different ways nowadays.
Do you get sponsors?
We do. We tend to be like, we're a bad model of a YouTube channel. Because luckily when I get to make a show like Could You Try the Movies, that's a show that's paid for by YouTube Originals. So I don't have to worry about brand deals or things like that. I get to make what I want to make, and there's a budget behind it. On Vsauce in particular, we don't do too many of them because we like to promote our own product, which is the Curiosity Box, which is a quarterly subscription box full of like science toys and experiments and puzzles. And that we promote more because that's actually our product, right? We benefit from our audience getting it because it's ours. And it's something that we really care about and we're actually a part of.
Okay. You have a lot of curious minds here, and I want to take a poll if we could. We usually go into breakout rooms and pose a question, but based on the curious minds here, I want to show, God, I don't know what happened, and I wasn't drinking. I want to see a show of hands of how many would just rather raise questions and ask Jake questions rather than go to breakout rooms where we have a question that is posed. So Reba, can we kind of see gallery view and then see a show? Okay, I don't think I need to go any farther.
Vicki, and I've been talking with several people in the chat, and we have 3 young people here who would love to share their thoughts. 7-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and they're crazy about Vsauce, Jake, and would be willing to share their thoughts. So yes, I'd say let's just stay with the whole group and put it on gallery view.
Yeah, we'll go on gallery view and let people ask Jake questions. We're going to dispose of our usual.
That's great.
Format.
So to get an intergenerational view of this, and Lisa's also putting in, so we've got a number of young folks here. So from an intergenerational perspective, there were several comments. I don't know if you've been following them in the chat, where it's saying, I like interesting facts in the world. And Jake focuses on that and shares interesting things. So that's of interest. But I would love to hear from some of the youngsters about just so Emma, do you have something you want to say? Just share who you are, how old you are, and how you got involved, and what do you like about Vsauce?
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm 12 years old and I live in Chicago. I really love Vsauce and how it explains science things, but in a fun way. It breaks it down in a way that you can understand it. And yeah, I really love the Curiosity Box. We get it.
Yeah, explain Curiosity Box, because some people may not be aware of it.
So basically, the Curiosity Box, it's a quarterly subscription where you get a box filled with all sorts of interesting things and an explanation about it, different things that, in a sense, spark your curiosity, I guess is the name. And it's really cool. We get all sorts of really interesting items in the box. It's really fun. So yeah. And Oliver, this is my brother, Oliver. Hi. You have something to say? I just really like the videos, and it's really fun for me to see new videos that I haven't watched yet, and then enjoy all of them while they happen. Oh, okay.
That's great.
That's
This is
awesome.
Dad. This is Dad. I want to say something which I think is a real benefit, and I think it's a little bit lost here. I enjoy spending time with my kids watching Vsauce, and it's just quality time, and I'm blown away by the fact that me as a kid, I never learned these things, and now my kids get to know things that we never got to learn. And I think that's phenomenal, right? The access that the kids have to this kind of knowledge. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thank
Oh.
you.
Well,
Jake,
thank
do
you
you
all.
have
That's
any,
so sweet.
Jake, do you have any comment to our two fans here?
Oh, well, I'm gonna inundate you three with just praise. Thank you so much. That's incredibly kind. And also, you did a wonderful job saying what the box is. You're hired. You're the new spokesperson for the Curiosity Box. No, but I mean that's very kind of you, and I'm glad that we get to do that. That's one thing that we always hope for. When we think about how we make content, we want it to be something that everyone can enjoy, regardless of your age. And not that we're Pixar, but we like to think of Pixar as like the North Star of their movies are fantastic because as an adult, I enjoy it. As a kid, I enjoyed it. Like it's something that everyone can be a part of and no one feels excluded. And I think there's actually a thing that I always try and think about. And a friend of mine, who's another large educational creator, CGP Gray, says, and I've kind of taken this term from him years ago, and now it's mine. It's mine, which is treat your audience as if they're geniuses, but with a limited vocabulary. And this goes back to my thing earlier about jargon. Like, why use jargon to make me sound smart? Whatever. Like, everyone is smart. Everyone is curious. It's about speaking to them as if they're a human being. Nathan, nice CMYQ. It's as if they're, they're geniuses because they are. They might just not know all the terminology. You just have to explain it to them as a human being.
Nathan's kind of bouncing around there. Nathan, do you want to say something? Nathan?
Trippy cube.
Yeah, subtractive color. It's a fun one. Oh, the cube loves you too, Nathan.
Okay, wait.
Be one with the cube.
And then we have Jackson Sells. Jackson, you have a question. Jackson, you're on mute.
My mom wanted me to raise my hand. I think she thought I had a question.
Are you a Vsauce fan?
Yes.
Yeah, what are your interests, Jackson?
I'm interested in a lot of the stuff that you have. Like that one that you had on the white holes. That one was interesting.
Do you so are you more into space? Is that what fascinates you, or what are you curious about? What's like one topic that's really curious to you, Jackson?
Well, one topic that I'm very curious in is, space, yes. It's amazing how there's no matter in one place, and it's really surprising.
Yeah. No, that's true. Space is a very, like, I'm actually working on a video right now about that to a degree. I've always wanted to make it, now it's like the hot topic, something about the multiverse. I've literally been working on a script for like 3 years about that. But when it comes to, we're talking about matter, like that's what's so curious to me, is that it's always expanding the universe. Expanding into what? How is just new matter being created from what? Is there an infinite amount of it? If there's an infinite amount, that means there are infinite amounts of universes, of galaxies, of solar systems. But there's a finite way or organization of matter. So this then goes to, not to get too into, sorry, Jackson, I'm losing the thread here. I go on tangents, I apologize. Just bear with me. Because what's exciting about that is, and we've explored this with Multiverse of Madness and then with Everything Everywhere All at Once. So, okay, infinite. Space is infinite. It keeps expanding. It's growing, it's growing, it's growing, it's growing. That means there's an infinite possibility of universes, an infinite possibility of us, because there is a finite amount of ways that matter can be structured and built, which I think is so crazy to think about. And what I wanted, the thing that's been the most difficult for me, and this is where the curiosity comes back in, is how does one express infinity? We can say infinity and you go, oh yeah, that's a lot, but it's not a lot, it's infinite. Like, how do you fully comprehend infinity? And that's like the nut I'm trying to crack right now, is how can I visually express endlessness? Is what I'm trying to work on. Stay tuned. Hit that bell, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, and Jordan.
Well, thank you, Jackson.
Are you on here, Jordan?
Go ahead. Okay, hi, my name is Jordan. I'm 12 years old. I live in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada, for those of you who don't know. But so yeah, I enjoy Jake's videos a lot because I like learning things, and especially when it comes to science and things like that.
I enjoy Michael's and Jake's.
Yeah, I enjoy all of them. They're all great. So I do have a question. Do you have a favorite video you've ever made?
Boy, howdy. That is a good question. Oh boy. Well, you know, while I buy time, do you have a favorite video that I've made?
I like all of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
It's a good answer. Yeah, how do you pick your favorite child, you know? I would say if I had to pick one, if there was, okay, let's phrase it this way. If there was one video that if I were to leave this plane of existence and have one piece of content to represent who I am and how I think and what my goals were in life, I think it would be, ironically enough, Could You Live Forever? Is probably the video that I think encapsulates what I want to achieve best.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Thank you for answering that.
Of course. Thanks for the great question. And thanks for watching.
Jake, there's a question from Gary Salmonson, who's out in Minnesota, and he says, have you done or doing any work in nanotechnology?
No, like me practically doing work in
iPod
it? No.
Nano or something.
Yeah, I do own an iPod Nano. No. We've obviously researched it for video topics, but I know I play one on the old screen, but I'm not an actual scientist.
Okay, and Sarah Teal asked an interesting question, and she said, most content creators spend all their time on their passion projects. Do you ever spend any time just wasting time or playing video games or just doing total non-productive stuff?
Like
Ooh, Sarah.
Universe Sandbox 2?
Nate from the gallery. Yes, Universe Sandbox 2 is a fantastic game. Would recommend. We actually had that as one of the Curiosity Box products years ago.
Yeah, that's what I got for my first one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and it came with the scale solar system. So I don't really at the moment, because the problem with existing on the internet, like let's think about traditional television for a moment, or like movies. There's breaks, right? Like you have a moment to be like, season's over. Now I'm going to reconvene. On the internet, you always need to be making things. And I say this having not made a Vsauce3 video in like 9 months. It's because I've been working on other things, which one day I'll be able to share with you all. but not particularly. Most of my time is spent on working, and that's the strange thing too. And that's, I guess, the curse, but it's a benefit of being so curious. I don't know why I kind of said it like Heath Ledger's just the Joker right there, but is that anything that I play, a video game, a movie that I watch, a book that I read, I'm always just thinking about what interesting topics could I talk about? You know, I've been trying to, like, I'm playing a lot of Elden Ring, and as I'm playing it, I'm like, cool, what fun physics are there, or what fun lessons could be learned from the game that I'm playing? And how could I use my experience playing it to teach something? So it's always percolating. And, you know, I think as Vicky and Joyce said at the beginning of this conversation, one thing that I do, because they asked me the other day, like, how do I take notes or how do I remind myself of ideas? I have so many emails in my inbox from me to me, where it's just the subject line will be some random thought. And I just, at all points during the day, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night, just email myself with an idea so I can then start thinking about it more the next day. So I've literally, my girlfriend always is very upset when she looks at my inbox. She's like, answer your emails, but they're all from me. I can't answer them yet.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm working on the answers to the questions I emailed myself.
Got
I'd
it.
like to hear from Mark Bieber, who says, I use items from my curiosity box with my students and clients, usually unrelated to why we're working together. And they're some of the most successful items I bring to sessions as fun, intermission, rewards, general engagement, provokers. Thank you for curating so much. So Mark, are you on, and would you comment on this? Mark? Is Mark here?
That's all right. I can add on to
I
that.
think Mark died.
Hi.
Oh no.
Oh,
Maybe I did.
Oh no.
But I'm
He has
back.
risen.
Hi.
just like Jesus.
So yeah, I've worked in applied behavior analysis and tutoring and speech and language therapy, and I just can't get enough science mixed in. So I bring them in and try to work it in as, I recently did the pressure chamber thing with balloons. I brought that to all my kids this week and they really enjoyed it. So I used it for vocabulary and prepositions and stuff and adjectives. So I was like, well, what's happening now? Is it going to get bigger? I made them do predictions and stuff. So I worked in my language goals and they just get so quiet, so focused, so into it when, there's an opportunity to learn. So I really like the stuff you guys have made. Some of the stuff I can tell you guys specifically need to talk to manufacturers about. That's actually something I'm curious about too. How do you get products made, that you can't just find a whole bunch of and buy them and put them in the box?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that with me. That's just, I'll get to your question in a moment. Again, tangent, bear with me. So one thing I love about that is that, the idea, like I remember when I came up with the idea for the Curiosity Box now 8 years ago, was I wanted to make something that people could actually physically interact with, right? We knew how to make video content, but that was passive to a degree. Could we create an experience that people could touch, was physical, it was tangible, they could play with it? And what Mark is just saying is my dream is that people apply it for different ways, right? It is a tool. Learning, education, it's a tool. And it is up to the user of that tool, once they've been giving it, about how they use it and how they apply it. So that to me is like the ultimate, is that it's being applied for something that I never even imagined. You're using it to teach or entertain in a way that I hadn't conceived. And that's the beauty of any kind of creation, is that other people find another use for it than what was originally intended. So that's really freaking cool. When it comes to manufacturing, yeah, that was a whole fun experience. We prototype for certain products. There's a lot more of a lead time, so it might be a year. Like one of them in particular actually was our stereo viewer, where we have like history or images that have lost forever or cool illusions. That one took us a year to work through manufacturing because no one had made one like that. So we have a bunch of 3D printers at the office. So we throw them in a CAD, design them, print them, make mock-ups, see if they work, iterate, and then we find manufacturing partners that can actually create it within like the costs that we have. And then we start the process of, they manufacture it and they send us samples. We test it. They sample it again. And then eventually we get a working product. So Mark, to answer your question, it depends. It takes usually quite a bit of time, but then we also have to find things that are easily replicatable or easily developable to then sprinkle in with these longer lead time projects. So it's about finding that balance. So certain things, for example, like the CMY cube, that exists. We loved it. We worked with the manufacturer to make a custom one for us, but they already had everything set up. But there's other products that take us longer that we then have to work out so everything can line up together. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Great. And another one that I saw earlier, how did your body respond or react when you flew with the Blue Angels?
Not well. It was, it was very scary to start because when we, in lead up to it, I'm there with the Blue Angels. We're going through everything. They're running through like, okay, here's what the cockpit looks like. Here's what you have to do. You're going to be strapped in this way. If you hear this command, that means you have to. My favorite was they were talking about the, what do they call it? They said, oh, the bonus trip. And like, now we're going to prepare you for the bonus trip. And I was like, oh, we're going somewhere else? Bonus trip is if the plane crashes. So they were like, here's the bonus trip. If the pilot determines that they can no longer maneuver the vehicle safely, they will let you know and they will say bonus trip and they will count you down and you don't have to worry about it. They will pull the emergency lever for you. And they're like, what you're going to experience is an immense amount of G-force. You're going to pull your head down and chin in, and then you're gonna have to do your breathing exercises, the hick maneuver. And then when your body flies up, the parachute will automatically drop, but then you're gonna hit the ground really quickly. If you hit the ground, there was another thing we had to do for water. They're like, if you hit the ground, just make sure you try and roll your body back so the seat takes the impact force, not your body. I was like, cool. And then, we went in there and they gave me gum because you get really dry mouth the first time you do it. And then my favorite was they strapped puke bags to each one of my legs. And they were like, if you puke, you have to puke in the bag or else we'll get into the instrument cluster and then the plane will crash. So we're putting it on your legs to make sure that you can pull the bag, puke in it, tie it up, throw it in between your legs. So that was fun. Luckily, I can report, and they seem to be very proud of me. So I take this as a compliment from them that I didn't pass out or go unconscious, but I was very close. Because there was one thing, we actually included it in the episode where he's like, let's do some rolls. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then he just kept doing it and it didn't stop. And I was like, oh, is this like a joke? Are we ever going to stop rolling? But we did eventually, but we did stuff like that. I got to break the sound barrier. 7.5 Gs. So that's another interesting thing. The Blue Angels do not fly with G suits. They fly completely without them. So for them, the max that they try to go is like 8 Gs. Because they don't have G suits. So we got up to 7.5 Gs, which was, and you feel it, right? You're doing the hick, your body's all tight. And then you start to get a gray out, which is, you start losing all color in your vision. The cones, rods don't matter anymore. And it starts to almost vignette. I started getting that, but then he let go and he was like, all right, we did it. I was like, oh, thank you. That was great. Thank you so much. But actually, sorry, last thing I'll say about that experience, because I'm so grateful for it. Was it crazy? I was up for about 45 minutes. It felt like I'd run a marathon. By the time we landed, I was drained. I was like white as a sheet. I was so hungry. I burned, because your body's tense the entire time because you have to be, right? When you're pulling that many Gs, your body has to be tight the entire time. So I was like done, but I still had to record 2 more hours worth of content. So it was fun though. Very grateful that we got to do that.
That's amazing. Oliver is asking, have you ever gotten hurt making a video, given this experience you just described?
Only emotionally, Oliver. No, yeah, physically, there was a few. The 2 times I got hurt the worst, I guess. One was actually in Men in Black, where we did a pull stunt. And that's towards the beginning of the episode, I shoot the little cricket gun, and just like in the movie, Will Smith flies backwards. So we recreated that, and it's a pulley wire system. And remember, the first time we tested it was with a dummy because they wanted to get the weight right. And the way that the structure was, if we can picture this. We had an alley. So let's imagine we're viewing it from the side. We had this alley. I'm here, and behind me, and you can see this in the video, are a bunch of trash bags. The trash bags were full of pads. And then underneath those were more pads. The first time they tested it, they did it with a dummy, and the dummy just flew all the way past the pads and landed on the street behind it. Like missed it by a good 10 feet and then just was dragged across concrete. And then they said, we think we fixed the error. Let's do you, Jake. And I was like, are you sure? Should we not do it one more time to make sure it hits the pads? So we did it with me. And I also completely missed the pads. and flew over them and just completely, it's not in the episode, but one of the guys on set recorded with his cell phone, and you can just hear everyone after I miss it, just gets dead silent, like, oh my God, Jake's dead. Like he's gone. But then my little hand sticks up. But yeah, I had huge burns across my entire arm and my leg, and my like heel was bleeding. But then we did it again, and I didn't miss the pads that time, so that was fine. That, and then when I gave myself a hypothermia, probably the hypothermia one was particularly unpleasant. Would not recommend. 1 out of 10 stars. So that one was pretty brutal.
Hope you don't get hurt again.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But anything for content.
Jake, how do you stay focused? Alexander asked a question. How do you stay focused on projects? And if so,
Anything for the ad revenue.
to ensure maintaining that focus as you're planning?
I mean, it's a lot of outside of Could You Start the Movies, because I actually do have deadlines, right? There's more people than just me. We have an entire crew and people who rely on the show getting delivered on time so they can actually get paid. That one's a little bit easier for me to stay focused on because I have a commitment to others, not just myself. But what I found works the best is I just give myself artificial deadlines. No one's telling me that I have to make a regular Vsauce video, but I need to force myself to, or else I'll just spend the rest of my life working on one episode. So I try to find cutoff points where I go, okay, that's enough research. I can't research anymore. And then I spend time writing. And then once I finish writing, where it fully gets ramped up is when we film. We film it, and then I'm like, I need to edit this in 2 days. And I'll like pull all-nighters just to get it done. No one's making me, but I love that part of the process. Just that burn at the end to try and get it out, to try and finish it, because you spent so much time with it. So it's a lot of self-motivation and self-restrictions that get me there, which work for some people and some it doesn't, but yeah.
Terrence asked an interesting question. How'd you ever get to be so curious? How'd you become curious? And was there anything in your childhood that you either think of or contributed to your curiosity, or just how did you get to be the way you are?
I wish I had a really poignant moment that I could point to, but I honestly think it was me being stubborn is how I became very curious. This might surprise you to learn, but I wasn't particularly the best student in school. Well, especially in like middle school and early on in high school. I didn't really understand why I was being forced to do things. I was much more excited about English and the arts, and that's what I really liked. But what I found I could do is if I didn't, instead of just writing an essay, if I could present the information in a different way, that was interesting to me. So my curiosity stemmed from, how do I get out of this assignment? Was really mainly it, but still completing it. One thing I always like to think about and say when we make anything, or when you think about doing something, is you have to get from point A to point B, but no one told you how you have to get there. As long as you get to point B, who cares what direction you took, the way that you walked, how quickly you walked, if you ran, if you just did somersaults over there, like as long as you get there, it's fine. So to me, it was, I know I have to deliver X, but can I be creative in how I deliver it? So I started doing weird things, like I would just submit it as a video, and I would make a little video about, here's what I think about this topic. Or, you know what, I want to make a diorama instead, or I'm going to make a song and present that. Because as long as it answered what the question was on the homework, then how could I have been wrong? So anyway, long story short, that's how I think I did it. It was just trying to problem solve and figure out ways for me to do assignments that were interesting to me.
Did you get good grades?
Once I figured that out, yeah. I did. I started doing really well. You actually have, if you were to wander over to my mom's house, Vicky, my junior year is when I really started to shine. She she framed me on the dean's list in high school. She was so excited about it. But yes, it started to pick up, because the thing that I found a way where I felt comfortable expressing myself, because I felt I was being shoehorned in a different, like, yeah, maybe essays work for some people, but for me, I don't feel like that's the best way for me to express my information. I'm not dumb. I just haven't found the platform to express my understanding.
So tell us academically, you went on to college. What did you major in? And how did what you major in help you in your current business?
Yeah, so I majored in, surprise to nobody, film and video, but I minored in psychology because I was really, really curious about how the mind worked. Like psychology is really interesting to me. Kind of the philosophical understanding of how we think was interesting to me. So once I got to like my junior year when I could kind of pick a lot of my topics, I focused entirely outside of film, just on psychology.
Okay, all right. I see Lisa Sells. We did talk to Lisa already, okay. Joyce, are you tracking on the chat? Is there any?
I'm trying.
Ooh, Owen's got his hand raised.
Okay, Owen, let's hear from Owen.
So Jake, I've watched a lot of your YouTube video and I'm also subscribed to the Curiosity Box. I think the video YouTube I can remember the most is when you talk about different way to do time travel and the video loops itself. I don't know why this one in particular is the one I can remember, but yeah. And I started watching your video when I was in high school. Now in uni, I'm 24 years old, doing masters, and gonna go to a PhD. I just got accepted, so that's quite cool. Yeah, thank you very much. And I was wondering if you plan to do a video on AI in the future, because I study AI for a bit, and when I was in high school, your video kind of helped me in math and physics. And there's not really any video like that for AI, and I was a bit struggling at the beginning, but now it's a bit better.
No, that's well, again, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment, dude.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Yeah, AI has been actually, funny enough, again, YouTube, if you're watching, I have been, for the both seasons of Could You Start Movies, I petitioned very, very heavily because I really wanted to make a Blade Runner themed episode, with the premise being AI, and not just that, but getting more existential. Like, what does it mean to be human? At what point do we hit the singularity? Like, does it not really matter? You know, if you could upload one's consciousness into a computer, are they no longer human? So like, what is it that makes us a human? Is it the fact that I have limbs and phalanges, or what? At what point do we transcend to the point of physical bodies doesn't make us any less human? And then conversely, at what point can AI write the Turing test? Like, does AI convince us that it is real, that it is a human being? So I love that kind of like where they meet. At what point can we divorce ourselves enough from a physical form where we basically are AI, we're just in a machine? But then conversely, at what point does AI, which doesn't need a body, become human? Is there ever that point where they meet? Anyway, that was like things I wanted to discuss. So I'm still very keen on doing a video of that topic, hopefully still a Blade Runner one, if we're being entirely honest with each other, Owen. YouTube wasn't too keen on that idea because they were like, yeah, we're scared that you're gonna make AI sound scary and our whole entire business is AI. So if you could like not do that. And I'm like, no, it's gonna be really great. Like the whole point of Blade Runner is that AI is not scary. It's that these like robots, these cyborgs are people. They just want to live their lives, and it's us who are scared of them. They're not scared of us. They're not the ones causing all the damage. It's like us hunting them down. And I was like, so, but they still didn't buy it. They're like, yeah, we still think you're going to make AI sound scary. Long story short, still in the pipeline. I had my heart set on doing it in the Blade Runner universe. So I'm just waiting on that to happen.
Yeah, because I think if we don't talk about AI, we kind of make them scarier than they are in reality.
Yeah. Well, I get it. It's like a great boogeyman, right? Like for movies and television, it's a really, oh, we don't understand, therefore it's scary.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's not.
There's the same in physics with like radiation or yeah. So
no, 100%.
Yeah, I think if we can explain it in a certain way to make it understand or more easily understandable for most people, we reduce that fear. And you can see also where AI is implemented every single day.
Oh, totally.
Especially in Zoom, yeah.
Well, I think you're exactly right. That's one of the things that I really wanted to touch on too, is there's a lot, and but this goes to, this is you being curious. AI is so involved in our lives, but to the level already where we don't really know it.
Yeah.
Like we're unaware of the fact that it exists. And I guess you could see that as scary. It's like, oh, but we didn't know. They've already assimilated. It's like, yeah, but also it's like its purpose today is to make our lives easier, not to usurp us.
But I remember someone said about AI that the term AI is more about something we don't know yet. But now we got text recognition, but that's AI. We got, you can dictate to your computer and write for you. That's also AI, but you don't call that AI because now it has a specific role.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, this is a very interesting topic. And I do hope one day, because I just want to do it justice and like put it, again, my whole thing that I try to do, doesn't mean I do it successfully, but I try to do it, is put it in a wrapper that seems accessible, right? So to me, like framing it through the lens of Blade Runner, like people know what Blade Runner is, like great. It's more accessible to me than just AI. Like, oh, well, that seems weird. I don't know what that is. So yeah, but I'm working on it. But yeah, thank you.
Thank
I want to ask you a question. You know, I've been in education for a long time, and it seems that the way you're approaching teaching material, we should be revamping our educational systems from K through whatever. And I'm wondering, are you at all interested in working with educators to show them how curiosity can truly engage young people and make them really love school? Because I don't, you know, I can't envision that our systems will stay the same forever and keep kids motivated to keep going to school, go for higher education. I mean, what advice would you give educators to really get kids to embrace learning and curiosity? And what would you change? What would you add?
All right, Barbara. Well, that is a very.
We have about a month to discuss this.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, here's my condensed, simple answer. I think, and I know this is generic to say, but I think everyone is inherently curious. Every single person on this planet is curious. It's about how do we activate that curiosity. So I'll use what I said previously in myself as an example, because I can speak best about myself than anyone else. I was activated by my teachers and professors allowing me to express my understanding of the information in a way that was unique to me. Because again, it wasn't like, did I write essays on time? No. Did I ask questions in class? No, because I felt like I was dumb. But I think I was. It was that I hadn't found the way for me to actually speak and feel confident in the way that I spoke. So I think it's being better at identifying that. And then how do you do that? Well, I think it's, you know, not to get too into the weeds here, but it's about actually being able to have a connection with your students. If we have 40 kids to a class, one teacher, it's difficult for the teacher, and it's not their fault. It's difficult for them to connect with each one of those 40 people. But if the class size was half of that, it might be a little bit easier to work with them better. Because I don't know. I don't really know my answer to this question. I just think everyone is inherently curious. They just need the opportunity to express it. And what I try to do and what we try to do on Vsauce and what other creators try to do is give them more avenues. You know, we had that father earlier speaking about how like he's learning things that he didn't have access to as a kid. And that is the beauty of what YouTube has done. It has democratized education, where anyone can be an educator, anyone can be a student. And there's so much more for it. When I was growing up, I had Bill Nye, but then he was canceled. So then what do I watch? I guess Nova on PBS, but that's not very exciting. Now there's a whole myriad of different touch points about different topics that people are interested in. I think we see the vastness of that on YouTube. There's channels with 20 million plus subscribers just focused on science or on engineering, and people want to watch it. So there is a hunger for it. It's just presenting it in the right way.
And I want to just add one other thing. I think it makes it, this call is so interesting because we have young kids, middle-aged people, older people, and by combining these generations coming together, it really enhances the joy of learning. I'm loving to see the enthusiasm of the young people and their parents on this call. And this might not be a topic that might have initially been of great interest to me, but I'm excited by that excitement and want to jump into the game with you. So maybe by mixing it all up, we really can change the way education is taught in this and learned in this country and around the world. And you're a great role model for that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's very nice of you to say.
Okay, two things. First of all, several of you who have commented, because there just isn't enough time to get to everyone, and we're already at the top of the hour, and I want to turn it back to Vicky. If you have put a comment in or want to continue the dialogue, just put your email in the chat box. Vicky and I are going to email everyone who was on the call and just thank you for attending. But if you want to continue the conversation, just like Barb mentioned, by all means, just put your name or put your email in the chat, and we'll definitely make that happen. And then lastly, because we haven't had a chance to get to all of them, Jake, we'll make sure that you get a copy of that chat box so that you can see all the comments. but it was Connor Davidson. I don't know if you're still on, but he made a comment earlier and really said it all, where he said, thank you very much from all of us. The world is a better place because you're in it. And I just thank you, and we all thank you for the work that you do. So with that, it's an official wrap up to this. And Vicki, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you, Jake, from all of us.
Of course. No, thank you. Just to interject one second. Thank you, everyone here. Thank you for just the amazing questions, for being so curious, and for supporting Vsauce and the box and me. And it really is very meaningful. So I'm very grateful that you all exist. So
Now,
thank you.
Jake, you had a parting question that
Oh,
you would leave people with, since this is on curiosity, and it was for people to ponder who have joined this discussion.
Yes. So here is a existential question for you, for everyone here, just to think about, just to noodle on, which is, how can your curiosity be used to make you a kinder, more thoughtful person? Interpret that as you would.
Okay. Thank you, Jake.
Of course, thank you.
I have to say, the way I got to know Jake is his mom was my next door neighbor, one of the best next door neighbors you could ever have. And so I got to know Jake. I'd hear mom brag about him all the time. And now I know that mom had every right to brag about what an amazing, accomplished son she had. So thank you, Jake.